that B'yom Hashmini, and I'm quoting from the Zohar in Parshat Tazria, page 9. B'yom Hashmini, what happens at B'yom Hashmini? Chozer haruach v'haguf leheroet lefnei hamalka ulitkasher ba ubedacha dahainu b'zeh erampin beguf v'ruach. In other words, what happens on that eighth day? What happens on that eighth day? Because the vessel has been established, the vessel that can deal and handle the soul, on the eighth day, not on the seventh, not on the ninth, but on that eighth day, the body and soul come together as one unified whole, and the ruach is yashev beguf. And here he goes into the aspect of what pidyon haben is. In other words, what is the purpose of a pidyon haben? But in general, what we are discussing here, for the purpose of our discussion, that these 8 days provide the forum by which the soul and the body will become united. That by no means, says the Zohar, is the end of the scenario between the body and the soul. Because he says you need 30 days before haruach eine mishkano shoneh beguf kibishar yamim. The 8th day is indicated by the Zohar as where they now merge into one unified whole. But as we know from other teachings in the Kabbalah, that the soul and the body are diametrically opposed to each other. There's a dichotomy. That dichotomy, in fact, exists throughout a person's lifetime. We speak of schizophrenia. You ask a psychiatrist what it's all about. He doesn't know. That's why if it's acute, forget it, right? But that's not true. That's not true. I can attest to it. Acute does not mean it is so. I just wanted to play a little game with that, and I want to help a friend of ours who had a daughter who was acute schizophrenic, and we took her back to the hospital and to all the psychiatrists that treated and said a miracle must have happened. She's no longer acute. Chronic. But in any event, what is that all about? Because the body has a consciousness of a desire to receive for oneself alone, and the soul has a consciousness of a desire to receive, and that's their common ground. That brings them together, because if the soul did not have an aspect of desire to receive, then how could they ever merge together? So they both have that basic intuitive quality, intrinsic quality of desire to receive. However, as opposed to the body's desire to receive for oneself alone, the soul has this intrinsic quality of a desire to receive for the sake of sharing. And the Zohar says, now that they have been brought together, now the trouble begins, because you have united two energy consciousness that are opposing. In fact, each one is making an attempt to swallow the other one. And therefore, the pidyon haben, which takes place, and we'll learn why that is so important, but until it takes 30 days, a completion of 30 days, before that soul settles in with the body and becomes acclimated and kind of learns all of the rough turf that it's going to encounter throughout its life. But this is the quarrel that goes on. That's why we're told we're all potential schizophrenics, right? What do you mean we're all potential? What do you mean we're all potential? So why does one yes and one no? If we're all potential, we should all be schizophrenic. What do you mean potential? Well, it didn't become actualized. What does actualization mean? If society can't deal with us, then we're actualized. If society can deal with that, don't disrupt society too much, then it's not actualized. I mean, this is so ludicrous. I mean, you determine the extent of whether one has a problem or not, and whether he can acclimate and deal with society. All right. In any event, what we are discussing insofar as circumcision is concerned, and insofar as the Pidyon Haben, or 30 days, meaning in any child, whether the child is a firstborn or not, until 30 days, the Gemara says there is always a question of whether that child will live or not. Why? Because those first 30 days are critical. Why is it critical? And it's in medical knowledge, it's true too. The first 30 days is critical. What's that?
Crib death is part of it?
No, crib death is something else. Oh, they call that because they don't know what it's about, right? Okay.
Between the 30 days, the end of the 30 days, like Yom Echad.
All right, I don't know if everybody knows what you're saying.
Well, it's a oneness.
What's that? It becomes a oneness, meaning now the soul at the end of that 30-day period has learned all of the dirty tricks of the body, and it has survived, and now it can deal with it.
Why 30 days?
It requires 30 days. Why do we need 30 days in the month? When you give me that answer, you have your answer. But you didn't ask me why there are 30 days in the month. I mean, it takes 30 days for the moon to rotate around, right? Do you know why? It's the same idea. In other words, I don't want to go into that aspect because we're dealing with circumcision. I'd have to then go into a complete description of 30 days. But 30 days means a totality as well. It means 10, 10, and 10, but that wouldn't mean anything to you, right? So I'd have to go into it, and I don't want to move off the base here.